Hey everybody, this is Steve with Smitty's Flybox. We're going to tie a Golden Stone today, a bead head. So I'm using a 1730 Daiichi hook. This is a 3.2 millimeter gold brass bead, and it's a size 10. I'm using 6/0 thread, and we'll just attach our thread, get it started, and then we'll take it back here to our tie-in point. So for the tail, we're going to use, this is just some goose biots, and we're going to try to get us 2 of those. So just fan them out where you can get a couple of those that you can snip off. Try to snip them. So we'll take the 2 biots and turn them back to back, and then they'll naturally fork out like that. And make sure the tips are even, and we want the length of the tail to be about half the length of the hook shank. Okay, once we've got that, just carefully, I almost like to split them right on each side of the hook, and then we can tie those down, and then carefully slide your left hand down to the end of the hook as you wrap those and tie those down, and then they'll splay nice and neat like that. And then we're also creating an even underbody to this fly. Alright, now what we're going to need is a little bit of rib. So I've got some brassy size copper wire here. Tie that in on the side of the hook. Lay that in along the side. Tie that in all the way to the back. And then we'll come forward. So what we're working on is the abdomen. That'll be the abdomen, that'll be the thorax. Okay, for the back, we're going to use some thin skin, and I'm going to cut myself a little strip there about the same width or slightly smaller than the bead. That's critical. Mistakes most people make with this is they make cut it too wide. It's a little difficult to work with. All right, let's actually take our thread and secure that. Once I peel that thin skin off from the paper, it'll curve one direction. So this would be the top and this is the underside. So I want to tie it with the top down because we're going to fold it back over. We'll just carefully secure it. You can stretch that slightly if you need to, and make sure we've got it tied in right there at the base of the tail so there's no dead spot. And now we can begin the dubbing process going forward. For this Golden Stone, I'm using Hairline's Hairtron Golden Stone dubbing. It's a really good color, and it has just a little bit of shimmer underneath, and it dubs really nicely. It's mostly rabbit fur. Has a little bugginess to it as well. So, and I'm going to just try to taper this slightly as I move my way up the abdomen, so we might have to just kind of add as we go. And just get a little bit thicker as we work our way up towards the little kink in the hook there. Get a little more aggressive with it here as I work my way up. Let's just go one more little section there. We can always come back over it. I just don't want a little dead area as that tapers. So if you follow the natural taper of a stonefly, they start thin, get kind of thick in this area, and then they taper back down towards the head. So, alright, now we'll just take this thin skin and just pull it right over the top and stretch it just slightly, and we'll secure that down with our left hand about 3 times. And then we'll take our wire that for ribbing and we'll wrap that over the top away from us and just try to create a nice segment. Once we get up here to the thin skin, let's just make a couple of wraps underneath there, and then we can secure that in. Okay, so now this excess piece that we have, let's just fold that back over, and let's actually wrap back over up onto that just a little bit. And we're going to use that for our wing case here in just a moment. So we're actually wrapping back over. Now let's continue with some dubbing, and we're going to just dub over that section right there. And once we get that first ball started, now is the time for the rubber legs. So for the rubber legs, I'm going to use flex floss, and I'm going to take one strand and just hold it on this near side of the hook. Oops. And we'll just tie that in and try to position that in that V shape. And let's repeat that on the opposite side of the hook. Just carefully lay that in there. Secure that in, then you can kind of manhandle them a little bit how you want. They're going to be going a little crazy, but try to get them V'd as best you can. Alright, now we'll continue with the dubbing. And so now we should be able to hold the back two legs back, hold them tight, and let's make some good tight dub sections right there. And now we're ready to pull the front legs back. Just kind of pull them back together like that. And we're going to make a bunch of tight dub wraps right in front, and then that'll get our legs laying how we'd like them to. And once we get that, now we can just dub that thorax You can weight these if you'd like with a little lead wire. I normally don't. Just about there with some dubbing. Let's really fill in that dead spot or that area in the thorax. Good tight dubbing wraps. Alright, now we're ready for some antenna. And again, this is optional, but it adds a little bit to it. So let's go back to our goose biots. And again, we're going to snip off a couple of pieces there. Alright, now I'm going to do these one at a time. And that has a natural curve going to the left there. So I'm going to put him right up there. We're going to tie these in right behind the beads. So we'll secure those in there. And then you got to carefully come in and snip off the back end. And let's repeat that step on the other side. Again, using the natural curve. And we'll try to even that up with the front one. Hold it in place with your thumbnail, and you can come in there right behind the bead and with 2 or 3 good wraps. Now they may be sticking straight out, and you may have some little excess sticking out on this end. That's totally fine. That's where we're going to add a little more dubbing. So just push them back into place, working around those rubber legs. Okay. Alright, now they're starting to stick out there like that. Now we'll just pull that wing case over, and you can stretch it again just slightly. And we'll tie those down, that thin skin. And then we're ready to snip that off. Again, you can stretch it just slightly. And now we're ready to build a little thread base where we can do our whip finish right behind the bead. And just trying to keep everything neat. Oops, careful not to grab any of those biots as you whip finish right there. Alright. Now's a good time if you have some head cement or super glue to put a little drop. I'm just going to hit it with a little tiny drop of Zap-A-Gap right on top there. And then we can trim off these legs more to size. And if you have any stray hairs, we can maybe trim some of those off and just clean it up, tighten it down a little bit. Okay, and there we go. We have a Golden Stone Nymph.